Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So I picked up this little table from Facebook Marketplace for $15. It's in pretty rough shape, as you'll see here, but I thought $15, I'll give it a go and see what it comes out like. The top has quite a few watermarks and stains, and the varnish is pretty bad shape. But I thought I'll give this a go and clean it up, sand it down and see what comes of it. It's quite dirty and quite scratched up, as you can see here, and I think this is paint that's been left on top. So this little table, it actually pulls apart into two pieces. It's got two pedestal legs, and these little black knobs that you can see here, you just pull those out, the table actually flips up on its side, so I assume that's for easy storage. Or I'm also thinking that maybe there used to be a middle part to the table so you could extend it, but that's actually missing, so I just have the two ends. But good for if you want to store it or when you're moving house maybe. And then you just put it back together and lock it in place. There is two little brass turn knobs underneath that lock it in place. So first step was to take it outside and just give it a really good clean. I used the Simple Green Ultimate Grease and Cleaner Remover. So give that a good spray and get rid of all the filth first and see what I've got to deal with. I'm going to be sanding the top and revarnishing it. Hopefully I won't have to restain the top, and I'm going to paint the legs. So just make sure I get all the dirt and grime out of all the little grooves. And on the side here was, I assume, was food that had grease and that had accumulated over the years. So I just scraped all that off. And there's my bucket after a couple of washes. It has these little claw feet on the bottom, so I'm just going to remove those and clean those up. Just pop everything in a little bag so I don't lose any of the little screws, and I can reuse those. There's a little bit of wood missing on the side here, and also I can see a little bit of inlay wood. So I'm a bit nervous about sanding it, so I thought I would strip it first, and I'll just use something gentle like citrus strip to see how I go with that. I usually have good luck with this stuff, but we'll see what happens. The thing with this citrus strip, you've got to put it on really thick. So just put a thick layer over the whole top of the table and around the edge there. And then I just got some Glad wrap or saran wrap and covered that so it didn't dry out too quickly, and so it could penetrate and work its best. I took the little claw feet inside and got a pot and some white vinegar and put those to the boil for about 10 minutes probably. Just cover those with enough vinegar and boil those. This helps the tarnishing come off, so when you're scrubbing it later, it's easier to get it off. It helps break it down. I just laid out an old tablecloth, not tablecloth, tea towel, sorry. And I have this Barkeeper's Friend soft cleanser, or you can use the Barkeeper's Friend powder and just pop a bit of that on and just scrub away until you see what's underneath that tarnish. So they came out a sort of copper colour, which I wasn't that pleased with, so I may do something with those later on, give them a different colour maybe. An old toothbrush is pretty good to get the grime and tarnish off. So there you can see the before and after, the difference. So after about, it would have been 24 hours, I pulled the Glad wrap off, and it pulled a lot of the varnish off with it, which was good. But there's quite a few patches where it didn't really work. So just scrape the rest of that citrus strip off. And then I got just a little bit of meths and a bit of steel wool and gave that a bit of a scrub to see if I could get it all off. And it's pretty patchy, so it didn't do a very good job. You can see that little stripe, that little inlay there on top of the table. I really want to keep that, so I'm a bit nervous about sanding too deep. I don't want to break through because it's a veneer on top. It's not solid. I just use my scraper to get out all the gunk in between those little grooves. So I thought I'd use a poly stripper instead, a paint stripper, and see if we can get the rest of that varnish off. Make sure you wear a mask when you're using this because it does smell. And also some glasses in case it flicks up in your eyes. So instead of doing the whole table, I just worked in small areas because this works quite fast and it will dry quite fast as well. And then I just used a bit of water to clean up any excess that was left on the table. After I'd cleaned all that up, I just left it to dry out. Make sure it's bone dry before you start doing any sanding. So on the side of the table there was a little bit of wood missing, so I just filled that up with some wood filler. And that wood filler that I'm using takes stain quite well, so I'll be able to stain that little piece. So I've decided to use some gilding wax to give these a bit of shine, a bit of colour. It's called Vintage Gold. And I just apply that with my gloves. So already they're looking a lot better. After that was completely dry, I just gave them a little buff with a dry cloth. So I got 120 grit sandpaper here, and I'm going to give the top of the table just a light sand, just go very gently. And I'm just going to do it by hand with a little foam pad. I'm not going to use my electric sander because I don't want to bust through that veneer. Just sand down that bit of putty and then just lightly do the top, see what it looks like. So here you see a few dark patches. So the 120 grit went through that and managed to get rid of those. Then I went over it and did a 240 grit. So this is Feast and Watson stain here. I am using to stain the sides where it's quite light. And I just use my artist brush. Just paint that on very gently, not to go over the edge. And then I wiped it back with a cloth. And this is the bit that I did with the putty, and it took it quite well. So just make sure I get off all that sanding dust. And if you want to know what it looks like before staining it, just wipe it over with a wet towel, damp towel, and it will show up what it's going to look like when you put the varnish on. So underneath of the table, I just scuff sanded because I'm going to be, like I said, I'm going to paint this. And it just needs a scuff sand so the paint adheres well. Make sure you get all that dust off as well. And then I went ahead and did a dark undercoat. It's a black primer from Rust-Oleum. And I just, did the legs and that little square piece underneath. This is the paint I'm using. It's Fusion Mineral Paint in the colour Everett. So just give that a good stir. Make sure you get all the bits off the bottom and stir it well. And I just use a nice soft brush to give that a coat. It looks quite light here, but it does darken when it dries. This is the same colour that I used on my last video, the little chest that I did. And then flip it up the other way and give it its second coat. So there it is, second coat, and I also put a top coat on it. I just mixed some polyacrylic with a bit of the paint. Forgot to video that, but it does have a top coat on it. So this first polyurethane varnish is a marine varnish. It's quite good stuff, but it's quite thick. So you have to work quite fast and try not to overwork it. It did leave quite big brush marks, so I got some sandpaper and lightly sanded those off. Wipe away all your dust. Then I gave it a second coat and tried to work a lot faster this time. So it's still left brush marks, which I wasn't happy about. So got the 400 grit again, gave it another sand to get rid of those brush marks. Then I decided what I'll do the next following day is use this wipe-on poly instead of brushing it on. It's a lot thinner and it's easy to use. You just wipe it on with a cloth. I do prefer this. Probably should have used this from the beginning. So pop a bit on your cloth, or even pour a little bit on the table if you want, and just move quickly with this and give it a very light coat. So I ended up giving it 2 coats on top. So it's had quite a bit of varnish on top of this table. But I'm very pleased of how it came out after using this wipe-on poly. The time to put the little feet on, I just put a bit of PVA wood glue on the ends there and also inside the little feet. So as well as the glue, of course it has 2 little screws as well. So they should be nice and secure and not come loose. So here is a reminder of what it looked like before we started. Pretty rough condition. Only $15. I haven't spent much money on it at all. So this one will be for sale on Facebook Marketplace probably. And here it is now. Certainly much improved. Colour's lovely. And the top is excellent. I'm very happy with the top of this table. What do you think? What are your thoughts? Hey, thanks for watching guys, and I will see you on the next one.